Okay, so today's edition is dedicated to an imprint of a book, a series. It's the Myth series by Canongate Books, which ran, I think, from 2005 to about 2010. And what's amazing about this to me is I'm really down on myths and legends because I see them as iniquitous that we still believe in them. I think in certain cultures that, are really old and sort of preserve their sort of traditional way of life, yeah, I can see the need for myth and foundation, But in a Western culture, which is very materialist, which is very science based and all of that, I can't help feeling that myths are deleterious to our progress, and the sweeping away the old myths on itself. May or may not be the answer, but there's no point replacing them with new myths, with modern myths, because they are still myths. So I almost never invoke myths in my own writing. So as I say, I'm really against it. And yet, here is a series, ostensibly, where Canongate, the publishers, invited well-established writers to take any myth of their choice, ancient myth of their choice, and reimagine it in the modern world. And the reason that this resonates, this is so important for me, is because it introduced me to some great writers that I never had come across. I can't remember, I'm assuming that it was Jeanette Winterson who got me into the series because I was familiar with Winterson. I love her work, and her, at that time, whatever year this was published, Wait, it's called. I thought, oh, it's just the next Jeanette Winterson book. And then I realised that, no, actually it's part of the series. And I went back and I discovered three writers who I'd never heard of before, never read any of their stuff, who are now absolutely up there in my pantheon of favourite writers. And I shall be forever grateful to Canongate for this series that introduced me to the writers. So the first one is Michel Faber's, and this particular book is called The Fire Gospel. And it's about a sort of an archaeologist in Iraq, I think. I mean, it's a long time since I read it. And it's just beautifully written, and it's just, all of them are quite slight to some extent. But there was so much in the writing to admire that I went and searched out Faber, and I did something that I don't think I've ever done before. Is basically every one of his books at the time. I mean, obviously he's written more since. I went and purchased. I didn't read one. Oh yeah, I like that. I'll get the next one. I bought the lot, and I haven't worked my way through all of them. And again, Faber's someone who comes in for a lot of criticism more for his personal life and how he projects himself. But ignoring all of that, he's a tremendous writer. I mean, Under the Skin and the Book of Strange New Things are just utterly fantastic books. So that's the first writer I was introduced to by the Canongate Myth series. Before I tell you about the other two, this is a sort of non-fiction treatment of myth by somebody called Karen Armstrong, and I read it quite early on in this series, and it's not great. I mean, it didn't introduce me to any real new ideas about myth. So it did convert my scepticism about the value of myth. But, I'll just throw it in there because it was part of my whole Canongate Myth series experience. Okay, and the second author I discovered was Victor Pelevin, who's a Russian writer, sort of science fiction-y, but not. And so this is called The Helmet of Horror, and it's about the Theseus and Minotaur myth. And again, the book itself, lightweight. The book itself wasn't something I thought, oh, that's great, But there was something about his writing and his ideas that made me go and seek out his other works, which are all infinitely superior to this. And I'm actually, as of now, that I'm speaking to you, I'm reading a book of his published a few years ago called Snuff. And it is just a fantastic dystopian view of the future. It is brilliant. I mean, the thing about Pelevin I found is there's always things to admire in his work, and there's things that don't work or don't satisfy. But this book, Snuff, that I'm currently reading, yeah, it's the business. It satisfies. There's no. I'm only halfway through, but there's no downside to it. There's no things you think, oh, I wish you hadn't done that. It is fabulous, and it's great. And the last one I discovered was Dubravka Ugresic. This is called Baba Yaga Lays an Egg. Now she's from war-torn Yugoslavia. She was forced into exile and currently lives in Holland. And she's a beautiful writer. Again, this book is very much about the myth of Baba Yaga in a modern context, and didn't particularly, in and of itself, I didn't think it was a great book, but again, there was enough in it to make me want to go and seek out her other work, and her other work from the Ministry of Pain, and there's another one with the word museum in the title, which I can't think for now, are just supreme. The Ministry of Pain is about the pain of exile, Holland being a fantastically welcoming place and a liberal place and therefore a refuge, but still that pang about her former homeland, and no matter how great Holland is, it's like, well, I've still been wrenched from my, my hearth place. And she's a fabulous writer. She's also written non-fiction stuff, which I haven't read, but if ever I get the time, I will seek it out. So again, Canongate, many thanks for introducing me to fantastic new readers, even if the series itself wasn't that satisfying, and even if I don't agree with, not agree, but not particularly engaged with the concept of this, which was myths in reinterpreting myths. There's ones I haven't read. There's a Margaret Atwood. There's an Ali Smith. There's a Philip Pullman who takes Christ as his myth, so that could be interesting. Whether I will go back to any of the, to seek out any of the Canongate versions of those, I don't know. I mean, obviously I've read Ali Smith's work. I don't know, but I shall be forever grateful, no matter how flawed. A most useful exercise, and Canongate, I salute you. Thank you.